Hi everyone, this is Kim with Kim's Vinyl Expressions. Today we're going to stitch out an in the hoop 3D horse peeker from my Petite Fleur. This is what one of them will look like. She has a boy and a girl. This one is the girl, you can tell by the lashes. I stitched this one out yesterday. I did put the ears backwards. They should be reversed, so I will make sure that that is correct on the one that we're doing today. What's so cute about this design, it has hair on the top of the head, and it also has a mane, which is the most cutest thing. I did this part on my serger, which was a little challenging, and I think I just did a little too much wool for the mane, and it was a little thick. And I had some issues putting it through my serger. So I'm actually not sure right now if I'm going to do it with the serger again or actually use my sewing machine. I guess we will figure that out as I go on, because I haven't decided yet. But this is basically what it looks like. We're going to do the boy today. So what you will need to do this design, obviously you're going to need some type of wool. Mine was a little thick. It's what I had at home at the time. So I'm going to be using this color for the boy. And you're going to need a 11.5 by 14 piece of cardstock. We're going to wrap the yarn around here, and we'll get to that later. And then you're also going to need a 5 by 5 piece as well, so we can wrap the yarn around this for the top of the head. And whatever material you're going to use. Today I'm going to use Fluidity vinyl from My Punk Broidery. I love this vinyl. It's one of my favorites. So we're going to use this, and I'm also going to use some of the her promo vinyl as well. And this is going to be done in 2 hoopings. The first step is going to be stitching out the ears. That is done in a 4 by 4 hoop. And then we'll do the actual peeker in a 5 by 7 hoop. You're going to also want to use tearaway stabilizer, so it's easy to just, I take it out of the back. I don't know. I know some people leave it in, but I don't. So you can use whatever type of stabilizer you would like to use. So that's pretty much it. That's everything you will need to do this. And let's go ahead and get started. We'll go over to the machine, and I'll just run the first stitch just to show you for the ears. And we'll see how it turns out. So this is the placement stitch for the ears. They're on here correctly, but when I sewed them in the other one, I did it reversed. And then what you're going to do is want to lay your material on top and then do the tack down stitch. This is what it'll look like when you do the tack down stitch. And you're not going to cut around any of this now. The next we're going to do another placement stitch inside of the ear. So you can add another piece of material if you would like to. What I'm going to use on the inside of the ear will be a little bit of fleece. I want to have it a little puffy, and that's how I like to do it. So I'll go ahead and do a placement stitch. Then I will tack down my material, and then I'll be back after that. Okay, so now that we did this next step, we tack down this material. So what we're going to do at this time is we're going to cut around this like you're doing an applique. It is applique. And then we're going to put it back onto the machine to do the satin stitch around this. And once we put the satin stitch around this, then you're going to want to take another piece of material for the back of the ear, which I'm going to use the same, and you're going to do the last step and have it face down like that for the final stitch. I did forget to mention, for those who are new to embroidery and don't know what applique is or haven't done much applique, when you're doing the ears here, or on any type of applique, you want to cut around as close to the stitching as you can get, without cutting the threads. And even if you nip a thread here or there, it's going to be fine because you're going to do the satin stitch around it anyway. So I'm going to finish cutting these and put it back on the machine, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. So we are almost done with the ears. I finished all the stitching on it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull it off the stabilizer, and I'm going to cut just outside of the stitching. And so I have 2 ears. And then what you're going to want to do is turn them inside out. I mean right side out. And then once you do that, you'll have your completed ears. And I will show you what that looks like as soon as I'm done. So this is what the ears look like. Just show it a little close up. It did the satin stitch around the fleece that I put on there. And that's what the back looks like. You will need something to turn it right side out. I use a chopstick that I got from my local Chinese restaurant. I get a few packs from there when I go. And I use the rounded part on the end of mine because I don't want to tear through the stitches when I am turning it out. If you don't have access to chopsticks, I also used to use a dowel, like a thin dowel, and what I did was I taped masking tape around the top of it so it wasn't rough where it would break through the stitches when you're turning something inside out. But these are what the ears look like, and we will attach those, and it goes this way, not like I had it on the other one. Okay, so now we are going to start stitching out the actual peeker on the 5x7 hoop. Okay, I've stitched out my placement stitch. The next two steps are going to be the placement stitch for the face, and then another placement stitch, you can see it right here to here, for the ear. You'll do one ear at a time. You'll do the placement stitch, and then you'll tack it down. And what I do is I go ahead and just put this just a little bit past the line, probably like that. Yeah, just a little bit past the line, and then, goodness gracious, like that. And then I'll go ahead and just tape that down so it stays, and then I can go ahead and tack it down. I'll do about right there. And I'll go ahead and I'll put this back on the machine, and what it'll do, it'll just tack it down here. On my machine, I don't know, I know everybody has different machines, but on my machine, because of the thickness of this, I had to raise my foot higher so it would go over this and not tear it off, because this is a little thicker. So if you do have some thickness on your hoop, you definitely want to adjust your foot settings if your machine has it, so you can raise the foot and keep it higher while it's stitching out. So I'm going to go ahead and tack this down, then I'll run another placement stitch here and do the same thing with the other ear. And then I'll come back and show you how to do the hair up here. Okay, so here is what the ears look like, tacked down. Next, we're going to do the hair up here. I already it'll run a placement stitch right here. And then that's where you're going to put the hair. And I'll just show you what I did here, because I pre-did all my cutting and everything beforehand. But you're going to wrap the, this is the 5x5 card. You're going to wrap your wool around here. This time I didn't do mine as thick. I just did a few strands around. And then what you want to do is slowly push this off what I did is I just bent the card just a little bit, you know, just to get it off and keep it, oops, and keep it in place. Just as best as you can. I'm sure you'll have to fix it when you take it off the card, because that's what I had to do. And I just took it off and I just held it like that. And then what I did, I'll show you. I wrapped water soluble stabilizer on the bottom of this, so this stood in place, because this is where you're gonna want to tack this down. And I just went based off the instructions that were given with the file. So I'll just show you, because I've already done mine. I wrapped water-soluble stabilizer around this, and then I just went ahead and stitched it. It's easier for me because so it won't fall as I'm trying to stitch. So here is the placement stitch here, and then at least I know where this, where I stitched it, and you're going to leave a little down here, because later we're going to cut this off and the extra here as well. So you're going to want to put this probably, you know, just a little down. You use your judgment on what you want. Just make sure that the wool, it stays between the ears, because I'm actually going to wind up taping that down. I'll do that right now. Keep the hair in between, the wool in between the ears. Make sure that's below. Okay. And then we'll just go ahead and tape that down there and try to keep it in place. One moment. One moment, just making sure I'm doing something correctly. Okay. So anyway, so yeah, so we're going to go ahead and just tape this down, and then you're going to run your tack down stitch here, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I went ahead and tacked down the top of the head of the hair, and I'm going to go ahead and take this off. And then what we're going to do is go ahead and cut the excess off here. I'm just going to pull this here and just cut this. Make sure I don't want to cut it off where I tacked it down, so I'm just going to tear some of that off so I can see. And then you just want to cut it as close to that stitching as possible, because when you go ahead and put the material for the face, it won't be so bulky. And these scissors work best for me when doing this stuff, because it's a really good scissor. But I just try to cut it as close as I can. I mean, there will be a little bit there. Just make sure you don't cut the ears until you get to it. Okay. Still a little bit there, but it's not going to be that big of a deal. I just try to go back and just take what I can off. Okay, and if you don't get all the water-soluble stabilizer, that's okay, because when the towel gets washed, it'll come out, it'll just dissolve anyway. Okay, so I might, yeah, I kind of figured I cut one, but that's fine. It's not a big deal for me. So I'm just gonna cut this there because I cut half of it anyway, and then do it like right about there. Because I'm gonna cut these anyway. I'm not gonna leave them loopy. Okay, so I think I did. Oops. Sorry. That fell. Okay. Okay, so we'll do the same thing with this. I cut it, it just came out anyway. Okay, so that's that. Then we're gonna cut as much of this as you can, as close as you can, because like I said, you don't want it bulky when you are putting the face material on, and just takes a little. I'm very OCD, so I try to make sure I really don't cut anything I'm not supposed to. I try not to go too fast. And I just do the best I can with it. Just try not to cut the towel either. I need to sharpen these scissors. I think I'm gonna have to get my scissors sharpened because these are a little too hard to use here. But I'm gonna do the best I can without cutting my towel, and then I go back and do the little extras that I miss. And there's no specific scissor that you need to use. I just have my own preferences on what type of scissors I use. I know some people say to use certain types of scissors for this or certain types of scissors for that, but I just have I just don't go by that. I use whatever works best for me. And these two scissors are what I use more than anything else. So just gonna get these cut. And then like I said, depending on what type of machine you have, you may importantly want to raise your foot if you have that option in your machine, because depending on the material, like I said, that you use, it'll be too thick and it might pull it off when you're trying to tack it down. But I think that's good enough for me for now. And next, we're going to go ahead and tack down the material for the face, and then do the extra, the eyes and all that good stuff. And that, we'll just get back. I'll get back and show you what that looks like. Okay, so I went ahead and did the tack down for the face, and then I did a placement stitch here for the center. We're going to put a different type of material here. I'm going to use a darker vinyl, and I'm going to cut around here and then tack that part down, and I'll show you what that looks like when I'm done. Okay, so I got everything done here, and it's just applique. You're going to just cut around as close as you can to the stitches on both of these. And now all we're going to do finish this off. We're going to do the satin stitch all around here, and then we're going to do the eyes, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's finished, and then we'll get on to the good part, putting the mane in here. One thing I did forget to mention, and I just realized it when I put it on the machine, but I had just started, so it's fine. You may want to put some water-soluble stabilizer on here, or whatever you're working on, so this, the material from whatever you're sewing on doesn't get into the threads. So I'm going to go ahead and just add a water-soluble stabilizer on top of this, and then finish sewing this out. Okay, so I completely finished sewing out the peaker minus the main. We're going to get to that in just a second. I took all the water-soluble stabilizer off, and what I did here is I cut the loops on the top. I don't like it loopy, so I just did that. So to get ready for the main, I already put the yarn on the card. I just wrapped it one time around. I did it too thick yesterday, so I'm trying it a little thinner today. So we'll use that in just a minute. So here what you're going to want to do is, first thing is to tape down the ears. And I will do that. So I just fold it down here and down here. And then just do this. I want to make sure it stays down and doesn't pop up, so I'm going to put some more tape on it just to play safe. Okay, and we'll do that, and then I just keep that down there. Okay, so this is where I had a little trouble yesterday before I started serging this. So what we're going to do is take this card and bring it over here, and you want to line it up with the middle of the head, right about here. Just bring it down some, and slowly push it off the card, so you don't, see, this came up. Okay, I'll put some more tape down. I can't have that popping up on me. Let's see if I put a longer piece this time, if it'll stay. Let's try that. Definitely don't want that popping up, because when you're sewing your hood closed, you don't want to sew the ears with it. Maybe I should put some of that too. Since the painter's tape don't stick so bad, it won't really hurt it. Just do that. Okay. I'm a tape freak. I have tons of this. Okay, so we're going to line this up with the center and slowly push it off. And I bend mine a little bit to try to ease it. And then you can fix it however you want it once you get it off here. Okay, so I got that off, and then I'm just gonna straighten it as much as I can, and then I'm actually going to pick this up and move it down here more, because you only want about ½ an inch or so hanging out the top. Do that like that. And then, because of the issue that I had yesterday, I am going to tape this down too. I'm going to tape this down too and spread it, try to spread it out a little more. I want to try and get it to go as close to the end of the towel as I can and not have it so bunched up. You might like yours a little different, and that's fine. Everybody has their own preferences, but I just know the issue I had yesterday, and I think it was too thick for my serger. And I had an issue trying to close this up yesterday, but I eventually got it done. Just took a lot of time. Okay, so I'm just gonna, well, let me just see. I'm just gonna see one thing here. Yeah, that should be okay for me, for what I want to do. But you can make it as long as, you know, you want. Try and get it down a little further if you want. And just play with it a little bit. But you'd want to definitely start at the center here. And go down, I think. I'm just gonna play it safe and leave it like that. And again, I'm gonna take tape and I'm gonna just tape this down because I don't want no issues like I had yesterday. Okay, so with that, I'm gonna do that. And then I'm gonna fold this over like you would normally do with the hood. Just so. And if you have a little more out, that should be okay. That's fine for me. I'm not. And then what I usually do to bring it over to my serger is just so I make sure everything stays. And I do this with every peeker because I'm OCD and I want everything to line up exactly how it's supposed to be. So I make sure everything end to end is even. But you don't have to do this. However you do your hoods, that's your preference, but this is just me. And I do that, and then I'll come over here, and I'll do the same here. I want to try and get it as flat as I can, just so I can do what I need to do with it. And also based on your machine, you might not have to do that. I have a Brother NQ 1600. It sits on my workbench. So, okay, so I do that. And then, okay. To me, that's fine just to do the tutorial. I'm going to go ahead and take this over. I'm going to serge it again today. I think that's my best option right now. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll bring it back and show you what I got when I'm done. All right, so I finished serging the towel. I changed my mind on something to see if it would work better for me than it did yesterday, and it actually did. I took this over, when I closed the camera earlier, when I shut the camera earlier, I went ahead and cut the excess wool off to line it up first. And then I went and I used my clips here and put them all along here and took it to my sewing machine, and I did a zigzag stitch on it first, so everything would be down and it wouldn't be as thick as it was for me yesterday. And then I took it to the serger and then I serged it. So I got it done. So now we're going to turn it right side out and take the tape and everything off of here. And get this bad boy finished. I'll just hold this down while I'm taking the tape off. Don't want to separate the wool strands. Painter's tape is so much easier anyway, but I put a lot on because I had such a problem yesterday, and I usually stitch whatever I'm doing a video for out first before I even do the video to make sure that I got everything the way it needs to be, and so I know how to do it. So yesterday, like I said, I just had a little issue, but today, perfect. Not one problem. And I went mainly by the instructions that are with the design, but so you may just find a way to tweak it yourself, which works best for you. which is what I did. So here's your mane. Okay. Oh, this is your mane. And what I'm going to do, because I don't like it loopy, is I'm going to cut all of these. Except the ones that, yeah, that's fine. So I'll just go through, take a whole bunch, and just start cutting them. If you want to leave it loopy, you can, by all means, you know, do that if that's what you like better. And then when you're done, you just put it together like you normally would. Your hooded towel. But this was very challenging, and I think this is probably one of the most challenging designs that I have done in the few years that I have been doing embroidery. And I'm kind of glad that I was able to do this for Dawn. And hopefully it'll help her members and whoever wanted to try this. I think it is so adorable, and I know a lot of horse lovers, and I'm going to show this to them. Just make sure I get them all cut. And I think I sewed one in, and that's fine. Make sure I got now some more. I think I got two strands or so in there, so they'll be a little shorter, but make sure I got them all. This one's a little too long. I'm just gonna cut that a little bit. All right, and there you go. And there is your hooded towel. And then you just put it on, you know,